You're tuned into SoOnline Radio, your timeless station where we make it our business to inform, entertain, and most importantly, to educate. My name is Pamela Marinakis, your host today, and I'm pleased with the conversation we are about to delve into. I feel like this conversation is going to be an eye-opener into health, and in particular, diabetes, wellness, and how that intertwines with entrepreneurship. My guest today is the lovely Kajal Vagela, and we will be on the phone to her after these quick words.
Family members, it is the heart of what we do with Pamela. Marinakis, we bring local life to you. Welcome to Community Matters on SoOnline Radio UK. Together, we will dive into the stories, people, and events that make our community shine. From local heroes to inspiring projects, we are here to celebrate what makes us all stronger. Stay tuned and get connected, because in our world, community truly matters. It is the heart of what we do with Pamela. Marinakis, we bring local life to you. Welcome to Community Matters on SoOnline Radio UK. Together, we will dive into the stories, people, and events that make our community shine. From local heroes to inspiring projects, we are here to celebrate what makes us all stronger. Stay tuned and get connected, because in our world, community truly matters.
SoOnline Radio, your timeless station. Today I am joined by the lovely Kajal Vagela, a model, a health and wellness coach, an entrepreneur with a sports brand, and someone who can testify that living with type 1 diabetes is not the end of life as you know it. Thank you so much for finding the time to have this conversation with me today, Kajal.
Thank you for having me, Pamela. I appreciate this.
Absolutely. Now, I understand you are currently in Dubai, and looking at the time difference, you're having this conversation during the peak of the day's heat. So I won't take much of your time, and we can get this ball rolling. For those just, tuning in, and for those who are hearing the name Kajal Vagela for the first time, give us an overview of who Kajal is.
Well, who am I? Well, I am I guess you could say, a blend of cultures. I've lived my whole life in Zambia. I was born in the UK. Always had this accent. I think it just comes from my family. And I'm Indian or South Asian by birth. My grandfather came from India. He was in Mozambique. That's where my father was born. And then they'd set up business and shop in Mozambique, and then moved into Zimbabwe and then Zambia in the 60s. So I'm a byproduct of three generations I'd be the third generation of tailor in that sense. Tailoring and clothing is in our blood. My family business is City Clothing Factory, which I'm sure most people know of. Been dressing schools and corporate companies for close to even before independence. So that's where my love for fashion really started. I always wanted to have a clothing brand, but I've pivoted so many times because being in Zambia, the market is a lot smaller and things change a little bit slower. So I finally have found my footing with sportswear, and that's because being diabetic for 30 years, I was diagnosed at 5. I've always exercised and been really healthy with my lifestyle, which I pay homage to Zambia to. We're so lucky there with great weather, organic food, and the things which most people would deem as, you have a restricted lifestyle, actually for me were life-saving. So as a result of being diabetic, I've always exercised, and that's where the sportswear range came. So it's a byproduct of, 3 generations of Taylor, but just something that's more relevant for the times right now.
Absolutely. And that's a rich history and one to be very, very proud of, because I tell you, you mentioning all of that, I remember going in the 90s to go get our uniforms from there. So
Yeah.
it clicked.
It's so
It
lovely to
clicked.
hear stories like this because you just don't realize the impact you've had well, not necessarily me, but my family, particularly my father, on so many generations of people.
Absolutely insane. And you happen to mention that you were diagnosed with diabetes quite early in your life. How was that like for you? Do you remember what life was like before your diagnosis? I know you were only 5, but do you
Yeah.
remember what early life was before having been diagnosed?
Yes and no. So I'm just wondering if some of my memories are just coming through pictures I've seen from, when families sit down and we look at old photos.
Mm.
But I do remember being on a family trip. It was my parents, myself, because I'm the youngest in the family. So there's a huge age gap between the last born and myself. So
Mm.
the rest of my siblings were all in the UK for boarding school. So it was just me and my parents. And we'd gone on a holiday to Mauritius. I must have been 3. And the story my mother told me is as I am a happy, chappy little person, and I'd go and, chat with the waiters and waitresses. And because I was just this, excited little child, they'd keep
Mm.
giving me like cold drinks, like Coke, Fanta, and I'd sit by the pool and I'd be chilling and being given all these drinks. And my mom's like, that was a thing about you. You just wanted to talk to everybody.
Mm.
And I think because they gave me all these really sweet drinks, I got very sick. I think I had like a throat infection of some sort.
Mm.
Now, I don't know the type, but with diabetes, particularly type 1, they say it can either be trauma to the body or you have some sort of sickness that comes to you and basically just gets worse, almost like a viral infection.
Mm.
So the only thing I can put together is perhaps having that throat infection at that time may have manifested into diabetes like a year and a half later.
Wow.
So that's probably the only real memory I have prior to any diabetic life. But I do know when I was diagnosed, it was around the time my sister was getting married,
Oh,
and
wow.
we'd come to the UK for big fat Indian family wedding. Everyone's together.
Oh, yeah.
500 people jumping around the house. And my mom said to me that I was very clingy to her. I was very irritable.
Mm.
And, a mother's intuition is so strong. And she must have just said, like, this is not my child. She's not the happy, chappy, child that I know. And I do remember all of us cousins, I do remember trying to, what's the word? I was trying to like hide quality street chocolates. Like my favorite was the green triangular one. But I think something inside me was like, no, I need to go and tell my mom I've taken this. So I went up to say, Mom, I shouldn't have taken this, but here I've got this chocolate. And that's probably the only memory I have. None of us knew what diabetes was at the time. So I remember playing with my cousins, but again, that's from my point of view. My mom was like, no, you were very close to me and very irritable.
And that's
Luckily, I
usually the
had
sign. That's usually most kids, I tell you, even me being a
yeah,
mom, that's usually a sign, something's not right. When your kid's
exactly.
clingy.
Clingy, and there's just an intuition. There's just not.
Mm.
You feel something's off. So luckily, in a strange way, I'm very spiritual about this. Luckily, we have one cousin brother in the family who was type 1 is type 1 diabetic, but he got it at the age of 30. So he was the only one in the family who would be checking his, like finger pricking his bloods
Mm.
and taking insulin. And so he actually said, he says, maybe let's just check her bloods if they're high. And they happen to be. But the thing is, Diabetes goes through like a honeymoon phase. So it's like the pancreas is sputtering a little bit of insulin out. So according to the blood tests, the pancreas
Is
functionality
functioning
is fine.
okay? Yeah.
Yeah, but according to obviously your glucose levels, it's not. So in that sense, they couldn't really diagnose me over there. But again, as a mom, as a father, they're like, there's something, this is just not right. We
Something's
need to
not
get her
right.
well.
Correct.
Yeah. So to me, my sister was just getting married. We went to the UK for a wedding and came back to Lusaka. That's it. And as soon as we got back, my parents took me to South Africa, and straight away they put me on insulin. And my mom was like, "Yep, this is my child. She's acting her original self."
Absolutely. First of
Yeah.
all,
So
shout out to all the
yeah.
moms who can pick things up like that, because trust me, I think a
100%.
mother's intuition, like you said, is just
Mhm.
number one. Absolutely.
100%.
Now, understanding where your background comes from and how you discovered that you have diabetes, as a child, were you able to process that and understand that I'm not well, and from this point on, no sweets, no fizzy drinks, things are going to change?
Yeah. Well, I mean, bearing in mind, in the early 90s, Lusaka didn't have much of that anyway. So for me, my lifestyle didn't change too much. All I knew was every break time, I'm supposed to have, brown bread sandwiches and half an apple. Like, I was very obedient. I was told this. I didn't know any better, and I followed through. I think I didn't process it until later. I guess children are very resilient. They don't realize what's going on until a later stage. Like they just have to soldier on. So I do recall there was a birthday party that I went to, and my mom was explaining to the girl's mom that she's brought my own sandwiches with me, and for me that was normal. I mean, if I'm supposed to eat these sandwiches and eat fruit, but obviously my mom, she's obviously got more foresight than a
A
7-year-old.
child, yeah.
Yeah, and so she obviously knew there's going to just be crisps and sweets at this party. So she's explaining to the mom that her daughter has to eat this. But I think at that moment in time when I saw these kids looking at me from across their balcony, like, or veranda, that that's when I realized I'm being treated differently.
Different.
And that's when I was like, this doesn't feel, I don't understand why this feels different. And I only processed that later. I think as a result, I've always kind of done things on my own. So, a lot of times we have a blueprint in our life and we just do things. So my whole life, I've done a lot of things by myself. Also, it doesn't help that, the rest of my siblings were all in the UK. So for me, it was just a given. I'm just by myself and I do my things, until I realized later that actually the diabetes made me feel a little bit different. And so I have to do things my own way. And I got comfortable with that. So I mean, it's a double-edged sword. Like part of you will be like, oh, do you know what? I'm independent and I'm my own person. But then there's another part of you is like, but why does no one understand my life? Why do I feel a little bit out of place? So it's a double-edged sword, which I think I only processed much later. And I think it was actually during the pandemic that I processed it, which is why I've now gone into the diabetes wellness coaching.
That's amazing. Now, it is estimated that 415 million people are living with diabetes. Sorry, excuse me. I'm recovering from a cold, so I'm trying to...
Oh, gosh.
I'm sorry about that. I had to catch my breath there. I'm recovering from COVID, so these are the side effects. But like I said, sorry about that. Now, I was saying... it is now estimated that 415 million people are living with diabetes in the world today, which is estimated to be 1 in 11 of the adult population. Now, this is not considering, children. These are the adults that have been tested and found to be with, diabetes. This figure is expected to rise to 642 million by 2040, according to Diabetes UK. And this research was carried out in 2023. That being said, after your initial diagnosis as a child, let's talk about life changes that you had to make, and the adjustments in general that you had to make. I'm sure your family had to as well. And what did that do to you as an individual? You walked us through your childhood, but as an adult and as a family, what did that do to you guys?
So I do know that, well, we've always been quite a healthy family anyway. My dad plays golf 3 times a week, so he's very active. And my mom has always cooked really healthy food. I mean, she's one of those typical homemakers where she says, when you cook with your whole heart. And she, growing up, has always had, brown bread, even comes to chapatis. Always used healthier options, lots of fruits and vegetables. So for them to provide me my healthy lifestyle was a given. I mean, there was the thing that they did go out of their way for me, so that I didn't have a different childhood, was from South Africa. We would get diabetic biscuits and
Oh,
diabetic sweets. So at least
nice.
for me, I had those options. But I also knew that's like a special occasion thing, because it's not like we can just go down to the shops and get it. I mean, we just got ShopRite at that time, so I had never walked down the sweet aisle there, which I guess in a great way. Till today, I don't go down that aisle. I don't
Wow.
go down for ice cream aisle, etc. Because my mind is so set up for the vegetable aisle, and if I really want some biscuits, it will be like crackers or cheese,
Hmm.
that kind of thing. But also my tongue is very trained in that sense. Like, I don't crave anything sweet. The only thing, so when my siblings would come over from the UK, even then, I if I recall correctly, no one brought any sweets, no Kit Kat, none of those things. Um, but I have a funny feeling they obviously ate that in the UK. It was very, that's normal
Very,
there.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's very normal there. But I do know that my mom had made sure until today, when she cooks, she uses brown flour to make chapatis. She uses extra virgin olive oil. We have a very balanced diet, lots of vegetables for sure. There's always salad at every meal. And we end the day with fruit. We do eat meat, like chicken and fish. Um, One thing I think my mom is like, she obviously loves to cook, but because of me, she feels like she can try all the healthy recipes with me.
Oh, that's
So
lovely.
in that sense, she enjoys it in that sense. So for me, like, lifestyle has always been healthy. I don't think there's ever been a time where it's been a crucial change.
Hmm.
With my siblings, when they did come back after university, etc., um, no, they just rolled in with what mom was cooking. So it's always been really healthy. I think the only thing I've noticed growing up with diabetes is I was always the only one. So at 5, at 7, at 11, at 12,
Hmm.
I didn't know any other diabetics.
Hmm.
So for me to even explain myself in school, or even out and about, I didn't even know how to, because I mean, I would just state the facts. Fine, I'm
Hmm.
diabetic, but it no one would get it. And so that, again, that added on to the feeling of being alone. Um,
Absolutely.
I
That
think
would.
today I know two diabetics in Lusaka. They are the husbands to two of my really good friends. Um, but again, they're male, so I don't know any female.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
don't know any other Indian girl as well, so I can't even explain, like, what it's like to be
Yeah.
at home. There's no I'm the only one, and so
It's hard
that's
to
the only thing that
relate.
I've struggled with. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
hard
the
to
only person
relate.
really is my mom. Like, she will know if my sugars are high, if they're low. Like, she'll just look at me and say, Kajal, I think, like, if I'm a bit irritable, she's like, Kajal, I think your sugars are high. You
Need to
should go check your
check.
bloods. Or
Yeah.
not even that, she'll just say, just go out and take a break. She won't even egg me on. So in that sense, as a family, my sister and my mom have been instrumental in knowing when my moods, because there's a lot of mood swings that happen as a result
Absolutely.
of higher blood sugars.
Absolutely. I can testify to that. And I'm actually about to go into that. I personally have family members who currently are suffering from diabetes, and we've
Mhm.
had to put measures in place, to create a support
Yeah.
system, so to speak, for them,
Hmm.
things like daily phone calls just to check up, make
Yeah.
sure they're okay,
Yeah.
ensuring medication is always available, from the tablets
Hmm.
to the
Hmm.
injections. It's always got to be available. And like you
Hmm.
mentioned, a healthy but fun diet, because when you're
Yeah.
used, especially I think for those who are diagnosed a little bit later on in life, that time to
yeah.
adjust is really, really difficult,
It's tough. It's
to
so
go
tough.
off rice, potatoes,
Yeah,
all those
yeah.
starchy foods. It's really, really
Mm-hmm.
difficult. So I
Yeah,
can imagine and that's an elderly person. I'm talking
of
about
course.
somebody in their 50s, 60s, and
Mm,
70s. It's
mm,
difficult. But you, as
yes,
somebody who's considered young and youthful, you just mentioned
yeah.
that your mom and your sister are like your go-to. They know, they see it,
Yes.
they understand it. But do you have a support system, and how important is that support system to you?
100%. It's so important to have a support system around you. I mean, I've all my girlfriends, whenever I go out, I always tell them, if I'm acting a bit strange, just take my phone and just buzz the little, my little Libra sensor on my arm, or just check in on me. If I'm acting a little bit strange, just say, have you eaten? Have you checked your blood? I
Mm,
also, in short, I tell my friends that if I'm running a little bit late, just understand it's either because like I've been running around trying to rush to get somewhere, and then maybe I've had a low sugar
mm,
or a high sugar as a result of the stress.
mm.
So a lot of my friends understand that like I'm a little bit more relaxed with my timings as a result, and they understand that. I think it's just obviously you as a individual, you want to make sure that you're not different. You want to make sure you're there on time, you've
Mm,
eaten well, you're with everybody, but to have those around you to understand and remind you that it's okay to not feel 100%, that's really important. I mean, I've
absolutely.
got a number of friends who always check on me. Sometimes they're just like, I just want to check in on you. Are you okay? Is
Mm,
everything good? um and that's it means the world, because sometimes we, especially as diabetics, we don't want to feel different because we
yeah,
already feel different in ourselves, and so to have people just check in without asking them to ask us means a lot.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I was going to talk about just embracing that difference, how
Mhm.
knowing that you are diabetic and most activities that, normal people get up to, you can't get up to all those. So
Yeah.
when it comes to embracing that and embracing that this is my condition and I have this for the rest of my life, where are you with that?
I mean, I've never stopped myself. I mean, with everything I've done in my life, I think it's a testament to me just saying, you know what, we have this one chance at life, one shot
Mm,
at life, just do everything. And the thing is, as long as you're aware of where your sugars are, yes, if you're running around, like right now, I'm obviously traveling and in the process doing a lot of work, that does affect my stress levels, which can raise my sugars. So my
absolutely.
sugars have been high for the past couple of days, but that doesn't mean that I can't be doing life here. What I'm just doing is I'm checking my bloods more often.
Mm,
I'm taking extra insulin where I need to,
mm.
and just giving myself some grace. So, like even last night, my sugars were quite high. I just slept. I said, you know what? Most people be in Dubai and they want to go out partying and
Oh,
clubbing
yeah.
and all these things. And I said, you know what? No, I come first, and I need
That's
to rest,
important. That
and
is
I'm
so
going to do that.
important. I love that. You just
Mm,
said it. I come first. That is so, so, so important. This is
yeah.
your timeless station, SoOnline Radio. My guest today is Kajal Vagela, and we will be back after these quick words.
In the heart of the savannah where the rivers run free, she stands tall like a baobab tree. Her skin kissed by the sun, warm and brown. With her hand she lifts up every town. She's the heartbeat, the rhythm, the drum in the air. With the strength of the earth and the wind in her hair. She's the keeper of dreams, the builder of lands. With the fire in her spirit and hope in her hands. She's an African queen, building her village strong. With power in her soul, she's where we all belong. She carries the future in her heart, in her eyes. An African woman who will rise and rise. From the red clay hills to the ocean wide, she gathers her people with love as her guide. Black, brown mixed, they all are her king. She leads with grace, a new world to begin. With wisdom of the elders and courage of youth, she builds up the walls with the bricks of truth. She plants seeds of unity deep in the soil. an African queen building her village strong. With power in her soul, she's where we all belong. She carries the future in her heart, in her eyes. An African woman who will rise and rise. Through the storms and the rain, she never bends. She's a warrior, a mother, a sister, a friend. The village grows from her strength, her light. An African woman, fierce and bright. So sing her name in the winds that blow. Her village will stand, her legacy will grow. For she's an African queen, full of power and pride. And the village she builds will never divide. She's an African queen building her village strong. With power in her soul, she's where we all belong. She carries the future in her heart, in her eyes. An African woman who will rise and rise. Oh, African queen spirit flies. Music by SoOnline Radio.
Welcome back. It is your timeless station, SoOnline Radio. I am Pamela Marinakis, your host, and I am joined by Kajal Vagela. Welcome back, Kajal.
Thank you for having me.
Now, many people, i.e. myself, I'll speak for myself, we never get to ask those living with diabetes what exactly it feels like, for fear of just, offending the individuals or just invading that personal topic. Sometimes people don't like to talk about it. And previously we had said, the idea of accepting what your condition is and living with your condition. But today we're here to learn. So when your sugar is high or your sugar is low, what are the signs and the symptoms, and what strategies do you use to manage your diabetes, including diet, exercise, and just mental health practices?
Sure. I mean, it's not a walk in the park for sure. I say it sometimes feels like you've got a little war zone going on in your body because
Absolutely.
anything can make the sugars high or low, particularly if you're type 1. Type 2 is still manageable, and there is some sort of insulin being produced by the pancreas, or unless you are taking metformin, it's not so volatile. Whereas with type 1, there's absolutely
No
no
insulin.
produced. So,
Yeah.
from stress to menstrual cycles to running for the train a little bit because you ran a bit late, and that little run is either produce more stress in your body or it's burnt the sugar. It can go either way. So there's a lot of factors in place, and I just did a talk about this last week in London about being mindful and being in the moments, because most people would react to something that stresses them out, and there's no kind of thinking between the trigger and the reaction.
Correct.
Whereas for someone like me, every single minute of my day, I'm being, triggered in some sort of way. So I have to learn to be very relaxed, very present, and very mindful. And I do that, I do my meditations, I do my deep breathing, etc. But sometimes your body is just react, like it's not even a mental thing. Like when the sugars are high,
The physical is just going through the process and reacting the way it should. Yeah.
I mean, the best way for me to describe a high sugar is, obviously you've got a high concentration of glucose in your blood. So imagine, like, the closest thing you can think about is honey. So imagine honey running through your veins, and that honey blood has to go through your brain, into your heart, into your lungs, because it still needs to function, and it's carrying oxygen through there. But obviously it's sluggish. It's just the cells are like, why am I even here? So that's how I describe it. And so your body, as a result, feels that way. You feel sluggish, you feel hot, bothered, irritated. And sometimes if you've been high for quite a while, obviously then the blood's not taking the right oxygen to these different organs. So you can feel like palpitations, or like for me, I get an upset tummy. So which is why yesterday I just slept. I said, I'm just going to take some insulin, and I'm just not going to stimulate my body in any sort of way. I just got into bed and I watched some TV and I relaxed. And I tend to do that I mean, this has been high because obviously the time difference, the heat here is a huge factor. But like when I'm high in Zambia, for example, I'll go for a walk. I'll go and play with the puppies outside, something that's going to make me feel happy.
Relaxing
because
and
I'm
soothing.
Yes, I'm very connected to my emotions. So when I'm happy and life is good, my sugars flow very easily. And yeah, sometimes it's hormonal as well. So there's only so much you can do. My mom always tells me at that point, she's like, Kajal, you're doing everything you can, and if it's still not working, just go out and just stop thinking about it. Because sometimes when you overthink things, you're creating your own stress.
That's true.
It becomes a toxic cycle. When my sugars are low, it's actually the other way around. I actually get more hyper. That's just me. But a lot of people say that when you start acting like you're drunk, I know that sounds really funny. You tend to, I think it's the body's way of, it's trying to produce as much glucose as possible to keep you going. And that's why you feel like a general high. Yeah. But it's actually a very low sugar. So they say that's more dangerous, especially in the middle of the night, because some people, if they're not sensitive enough, they won't wake up from that low sugar. I'm grateful that I'm still very sensitive, given it's been 30 years. I'll wake up in the middle of the night because I just don't feel right, and I'll check and I'm low. So by the side of my bed, I keep a juice packet. I keep some snacks, and that is my go-to only when I have low sugar. So these are little things I do. Those are my physical strategies. But to keep myself calm when the sugars are high, particularly, or even if they're low and I'm just waiting for the glucose to hit my blood, I have to do some deep breathing exercises. I count to 5, hold for 2, and count out for 5. I have a really short meditation I do sometimes, so I do that just to get out of my head and into my body. And I tend to go for like easy walks, deep breathing, just connecting with my body is usually the best way for me to how do I say, disperse my mind going into places. It's like, oh my God, am I going to survive this? Am I going to survive? I have to, find ways to just calm myself down. Coping mechanisms.
And I guess everybody has their own coping mechanism, but it's good to hear and it's good to see and, understand all of this. But I wanted to find out, what was your experience with diabetes in particular that influenced your decision to become a wellness coach?
So I've been doing this for 10 years anyway. In Zambia, there's been so many people who, like even all the local doctors, whenever they have someone who's been diagnosed, they send them to me. So I've been doing this especially for, for like young girls who've just been diagnosed, particularly young girls, because they want to, it has a knock-on effect on their self-esteem and confidence.
Absolutely.
And a lot of their mums have seen me and they're like, can you speak to our daughter? But also just from a physical point of view, they need my help putting like a sensor on, or where to get insulin, what size needles to use. So all of that, because I've been quite vocal about it. Initially I wasn't. Everyone just knew I was this diabetic girl, but I think I had to really take it in my stride and lean into it. And more than anything, it was after the pandemic, when I finally was able to go back to Zambia again, everyone, like every day, someone would come up to me and tell me that, they have a family member who's passed away from diabetes, or, someone in their family who's sick with diabetes, because I've seen the numbers increase, like from the ground up. I have seen the numbers increase in the past couple of years. 10 years ago, I remember doing a workshop with Umoyo within their original, yard, and only one person showed up.
Wow.
But then I talked about it now, and I'm thinking every second person I've spoken to has diabetes or knows about it, in the sense that they know someone who has it, but there's no information about it. And I just thought, you know what? I would be doing a disservice to my life if I weren't able to deliver everything I know, because I know doctors don't have the time. No offense to them, it's just the way the way they work.
Yeah, correct.
And number 2, they're not going to hold a person's hand on a day-to-day basis when it comes to a high sugar or low sugar. And as a result, I think a lot of people get scared. They think, oh, if my sugar goes above 10, I'm going to die. Or if I have a piece of cake, I can't do this. And then as a result of that, it just perpetuates a negative cycle towards being, living a healthy life.
That's correct.
And I'm very open about saying, you will have high sugars, you will have low sugars. That is, the part of life. But as long as you're aware of it and you're able to rectify in those moments, you're not just keeping your sugars high for 2-3 months at a time. That's when you're going to get things like ketoacidosis and amputations of legs. Then yes, of course.
Absolutely.
But if on a daily basis you're eating well, everything is great, 90% of your diet is healthy, you're exercising, but you decide to go to a wedding party and I don't know, you had 2 glasses of wine, or you had a piece of cake, that's fine, it's okay. But in that moment, you're not going to call your doctor at midnight on a Saturday and say, hi, my sugars are high, what do I do?
That's correct.
Whereas someone like I can, because I've, number one, been diabetic myself, 30 years of lived and experience. But number two, I have this time I can provide. And number three, I've obviously done now a health and wellness coaching certification. So I have everything ready for people that need the help to be, I can hold their hand through the whole process. But it all really happened after the pandemic, when people would just come to me and say, I need help with this. It just exponentially grew. Before, people came to me, oh, my uncle told me you're diabetic, can you help my so-and-so, so-and-so? But this time round, it was more, how do I say, morbid, because everyone came to me saying someone in their family died. And for me to hear people dying of diabetes because we're leaving it so late because we have lack of awareness, that to me is unacceptable. I said, no, there has to be a way that people know about this so that they can get to the clinics in enough time.
Absolutely. I think you're right on that one. Absolutely correct. And we salute you for the service that you are providing, because even I, like I said earlier, I have family members who suffer from diabetes, but maybe it's an African thing. We don't talk. So they have it, but it's not a conversation that they're willing to have. They'll have that conversation with a doctor or member of staff, a medical member of staff, but to speak and to educate those around you, we depend on Google, to be honest. We go on Google and that's who tells us what exactly is going on in their life. So you mentioned earlier, you became certified to be a health and wellness coach. For those who don't understand what that means, what is a health and wellness coach?
So it's someone who literally walks you hand in hand through your day-to-day. So, for example, I would have maybe a 4-week program, and in that week, we sit down, I'll go through what you're eating, what changes you want to make. If that means you want to gain weight, lose weight, get your HbA1c within a certain number, because they also say you can't drop your HbA1c too quickly, because that'll also cause damage to your body. There's a whole process in which obviously I will have to work towards what your goals are. I can't come and tell you what you are not doing or doing, because everyone's different. So I will coach you. I will walk you hand in hand with your diabetes. I mean, you might not be diabetic and it's preventative, and you just want to make sure that your diet and exercise is in the right place, so that maybe in your family there is a lot of diabetes that comes in, and so you want to make sure that you're in a healthy position. I would do all of that. We'll walk you through a whole exercise regime, and as you do it, you can always call on me during the day, anytime, and then we have a check-in every so often, and we make sure, okay, have you lost the weight that you want? How have your sugars been? Because the thing is, it's like reading a book, and then you go and read it, you go away, and then you're like, I didn't actually understand that. But you bought the book, you can't go and speak to the author. Whereas here you can be like, I did everything you asked me, but why is this not happening? So I would be able to see it because I have a perspective. I've space between the like, for example, if you're looking at something, you're doing something, it's from your perspective. You have also your emotions involved. Like, I know me, when my sugars are high or low, half the time I'm like, I've done this, and then my mom will be like, but have you done this? Because she's not emotionally involved, she will be able to.
It's from an outside perspective, correct?
Yes. So I'll be providing that accountability, and I think that's what people need, because they can go to the doctor, but your next appointment might be 6 months from now. So much can happen in 6 months. You want someone who's going to help you be accountable to your own self.
Absolutely. And when someone seeks your services, what's the scope of work involved? How tedious is the job of being a health and wellness coach?
Well, I mean, I love it. I mean, I love helping people, and when I see someone hit their goals, it just makes me happy. So it doesn't feel tedious at all.
Mm.
Um, I feel so it is tailored. So each program, it is tailored. I'll speak to you. We'll go through what your needs are, and I think with diabetes compared to just a regular health and wellness coach, it is a little bit more technical. So I provide that day-to-day support. Sometimes it can be, daunting. If you're just doing a regular health and wellness program with me, it's no problem. Um, but with diabetes, things can change on a day-to-day basis. So
Mm.
I don't want to use the word tedious. It's not, but it is more involving because I provide day-to-day, WhatsApp
Mm.
conversation with you.
Mm.
But I love it. I mean, I love it.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, the fact that you yourself have experienced this, it makes it changes everything. When somebody who is guiding you through a process has experienced it, it makes a lot different. And when you do these sessions, I wanted to find out, do you do just individuals or are you also able to do big group sessions?
At the moment, I'm doing them individually, but I'm slowly introducing a group program. I haven't set it up fully. I'm still working on the individuals because I just want to make sure that I'm delivering the quality
Mm.
that I want.
And that's so
So right
important.
now, yeah, right now it's individual. I don't want to do the group one just as yet because obviously diabetes is so individual for everyone. But until I feel that, I've got a solid program in place for the groups, that will be done. But I am introducing webinars and seminars. So when I'm back in Lusaka, I'll be doing some seminars. But I understand that not everyone is in Lusaka. So I will be
Mm.
doing webinars,
Webinars
which will
as
be available
well.
online for everyone who needs help. Because another area which I know I focus on, which I haven't seen online, and I didn't get growing up, and that's another reason why I am focused on, it's not tedious to me to be coaching people, is I wish I had a friend. I wish I had someone who was holding my hand,
Mm.
and the only person I had was my mom. So
Mm.
the dedication that my mom gave me
Mm.
is inbred in me. So
Mm.
whoever needs my help, I will give that kind of dedication to them. So it to me it doesn't feel like work because I want to make sure that others are winning. And
Absolutely.
especially in communities of color, as we mentioned earlier, like in Zambian communities, African communities, we don't talk about diabetes, number one,
Mm.
but also in Indian families. And now that I've been here in Dubai, actually, and I have quite a few Arabic friends, they say there's a lot of diabetes in their families. But from a cultural point of view, it doesn't
Nobody,
get spoken
yeah,
about.
nobody talks about it. Nobody
Yeah,
speaks about it. I don't know. It's
and
our culture. I don't know. It's just not a topic
yeah,
you bring up. It's not something. It's disrespectful. It's
mm,
invasive. So I
mm,
totally get you. I totally get you. And what you're doing is phenomenal in that sense because,
thank you.
like how AIDS was back in the day, and
Yeah,
some get
it's like
offended from
that.
using that
Mm,
topic, but it's nobody wants to talk about it because that's going to
yeah,
reflect your poor diet. It's going to reflect
mm,
your poor lifestyle choices, this, that, and the other. But the truth
mm,
is, it can happen to any one of us at any given time. It is how you manage
100%.
yourself moving
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for example, I mean, I'm part of the Diabetes Association of Zambia has just started up recently, and they've made me chair of Lusaka. So there's a lot of information
Wow,
being sent around on WhatsApp groups.
congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. There's a lot of there's a lot of work going on, and so there's a lot of information being passed around, and a story was shared of a child in the village in Zambia, and obviously a symptom of diabetes is severe thirst.
Mm.
And they all said, we need to take the child to the witch doctor to remove the thirsty monster.
Oh gosh.
And I just thought, we can't be in this day and age where we don't have. I mean, the reason we have a story like that is because we don't have the awareness.
That's
And in
it.
communities of color, because we do everything together, we're communal, we'll eat together, we'll work together,
Mm.
we'll do everything
Mm.
together. It's if you don't have the information, it's very easy. And I don't want to use the word gossip, it's just communal thinking. That's how we rationalize. So if suddenly you're going to the toilet very often, someone will say there's a bladder issue, or maybe there's something that. But if you had the information, you would go straight to the doctor and get it checked. But right now, if you don't have the information, you don't know what's going on, you're going to rationalize with the scope of knowledge you currently have.
That is
And so
correct.
that's what's happening in these communities. Like for me, growing up, it was just my mom, my dad, and me, and I just followed what the nurse told my mom and what my mom told me. So when I got older, I remember in certain groups, I was told, "Oh, no one would ever get married to you because you can't have children." And this was
Wow.
like an Indian community, and I was like, to me,
Wow.
it made no sense because rationally, I'm like, there's only one part of it's not even, my pancreas works. It's just a part of my pancreas that's not creating insulin. But apart from that, I'm really healthy. And
Absolutely.
it made no sense to me.
Oh
But
my
that's when I
gosh.
realized this is like people who I'd gone to school with. And, we went to an international school. And I thought, it's not even about knowledge. It is about
Awareness.
knowledge,
It's
but it's
the
about awareness.
awareness. Yes,
It's
correct.
awareness, and communities of color are rationalizing in the strangest of ways because we have that, we lack that awareness, we lack that information.
Oh
And when
my
you look
gosh.
online, you just tend to see people, eating a Caucasian diet. You're following what the books are. They just follow the numbers, but no one's ever explaining to you, say, oh, when you go to a wedding and you're sitting there with auntie and uncle, and they slap another piece of food on your plate, and you feel uncomfortable, in number one, even saying you're diabetic, but number two, saying you don't want to disrespect them and say, I don't want your food because
I'm not
my
well
sugars are
enough
going to
to
go
eat
high.
this. Yes, exactly.
Exactly. No one's going to understand. No doctor's going to explain about how do you
How do you
deal with
manage that?
these.
Yes.
Yes, how do you manage those emotions? Whereas someone like me, who's a coach, I'd be understanding your mindset. How do you work with your confidence around it? Because I lacked that. And I see so many young girls now who lack their confidence because they feel their life is now not ended, but there's a dent in their life.
Yes,
Whereas I took my dent and I said, let's go with it. This is where
absolutely.
I will help in terms of communities of color. Like there's ways to think around this, because think about it rationally and logically versus emotionally. How are you able to be a obedient and respectful, person in your
Individual,
family,
yes.
individual, but then yet be healthy and say, you know what, I appreciate this, but no, I can't do this because of XYZ.
Oh my
There's
gosh. Nobody
scripts around it which
realized.
we can say.
I'm so glad you brought this up, because we don't realize that some of these things are an absolute everyday thing in the life of somebody who suffers from diabetes. And the ability to say no sometimes is either overwhelming because there is a respect level, or sometimes just because you yourself have not been able to control those emotions or those urges,
Yeah.
i.e., wanting to eat that food because, oh my gosh, I love nshima, or I love rice, or I love chapatis, or whatever the
Yeah.
case, to be able to control that. And you don't realize, you just know they suffer from it, but the side effects of it, it's so important that you're bringing this up. But
Yeah.
as we move forward, I would like us to talk a little bit more about, your brands. Now, many of us can relate to what it takes to build a brand in general, but breaking into a market can be so challenging. I wanted us to talk, or for you to talk us through the experience of building a wellness brand in Zambia. Has that been something that's taken off, or has that been something you've had to strive for?
So the wellness part, so from the diabetes point of view, it has actually, um, I've had wings with it, I guess you could say. I guess I've been in the market, I guess you could say, for a long time. But I think now, because the numbers are so atrocious, they're so high, and there's no one else who has 30 years of lived in knowledge. I think the timing and the need for the diabetes coaching and my speeches and presentations, etc., has just been really timely. And tied in with that, with the clothing brand, I mean, I was doing suits when I first started, only because I was working with City Clothing, and that's what our speciality was. And I mean, I love suits anyway. I like corporate.
Everybody loves a good suit.
Yes, everyone loves a good corporate suit, and I really wanted to showcase what Zambia was able to do. But I did uh, stand up to a lot of challenges because a lot of my clients were abroad, and to send things out of Zambia, especially things that are, they've got padding, they've got lining, it's heavy, and it ended up being more expensive to send it out than to
To
actually just make
make
the
it.
product. Yeah, and because I I mean, I've grown up in that in city clothing. I've grown up in bales of fabric. I've played in with my friends there. Bales of fabric. We pretended that was our little bedroom, our little kitchen, our little play area.
Oh, I can
Um,
imagine. Yeah.
Until today, I mean, I still work at the factory. I run a whole embroidery department there. But as time has gone by, I've realized that I'm needed in other places, and I've had to learn to delegate and to streamline as best as
I
possible.
was about to ask you. I was like, wait, wait, wait. Did you just say that you also run a department in the store?
Yes.
Because that's insane. I have 3 kids, Kajal, 3 kids, and that's already like a full-time job for me. And then you have work, and then you have your house to manage. And that for me is like enough, my plate's full. But look at you. You're building a wellness brand. You have your clothing line, you have, all these other things that you're into. How does Kajal manage?
With difficulty, but I do.
Like you said, you are learning to delegate. You are learning to delegate.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So online
I mean,
radio. Sorry, Kajal. We were just going to break off into our next segment. But if there was something you wanted to add, please go on.
No. I was just going to continue. Go on.
So online radio, informing, entertaining, and educating 365 days of the year. Your number one internet radio station. We will be back after this.
From the heart of Lusaka to the streets of London, we gather as one beneath the shining sun. 60 years of freedom, we stand tall and proud. Dr. Conda's dream, we're singing it out loud. We've walked through the fire, we've weathered the storm. Together as a people, we've kept each other warm now. In the UK, we rise with one voice, in unity and strength, we made our choice. We remember where we came from and the journey that we've made. With the spirit of our fathers, their legacy won't fade. Honor our heritage, embrace our future. One Zambia, one nation, one people forevermore. With the love in our hearts and our voices together, we celebrate in unity, now and evermore. So online radio, you spreading love far and wide. DJ player and the crew with pride in their stride. From the DJ Academy in Zambia's heart to the stages of the UK, we play our part. We honor those who paved the way. Their courage and strength still lead us today. We lift our flag, red, black, green and gold. With every beat, a story told. We remember where we came from and the journey that we've made. With the spirit of our fathers, their legacy won't fade. Honor our heritage, embrace our future. One Zambia, one nation, one people forevermore. With the love in our hearts and our voices together, we celebrate in unity, now and evermore. 60 years of freedom, 60 years of light. In every Zambian soul, we keep the fire bright. In the UK, we dance, we laugh, we sing. For one Zambia, one nation, let the bells ring. From Lusaka to London, we stand as one. Our future is bright and the journey's begun. With our heads held high and our spirits true. One Zambia, one people, we celebrate with you. From the heart of Lusaka to London, we stand as one. Our future is bright and the journey's begun. With our heads held high and our spirits true. One Zambia, one people, we celebrate with you. From Lusaka to London, we stand as one. Our future is bright and the journey's begun. With our heads held high and our spirits true. One Zambia, one people, we celebrate with you. Ooh, ooh, from the love in our hearts and our voices together with you. From Lusaka to London, we stand as one. Our future is bright and the journey's begun. With our heads held high and our spirits true. One Zambia, one people, we celebrate with you.
It is your timeless station, SoOnline Radio. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all our listeners in different time zones. My name is Pamela Marinakis, and my guest today was the lovely Kajal Vagila. Our conversation centered around health and wellness. Kajal is a diabetic who has lived with diabetes for most of her life. So it was quite insightful listening to her experiences, growing up, as well as how that grew into a health and wellness brand. She is a health and wellness coach and speaks to people who are suffering from diabetes and those who aren't and are looking to better their lives. She also has a sports brand that she is growing that infuses, traditional Zambian patterns, textile with her health and wellness clothing line. So I think that's a first in Zambia, but I love the idea, absolutely love the idea. And I will be jumping online and purchasing a few of these goodies for myself and those I love dearly. But yeah, I was very, very grateful to have this conversation because I have family members myself, like many of you out there, who suffer from diabetes, but we hardly speak about it as a community, and how best to get this conversation going in, our homes, our communities, our friendship groups, etc., and how to be open about it. Health is something that I feel each and every one of us need to be on top of. And like Kajal says, it's a cultural thing. It's an independent thing, a personal thing that needs to grow. And once it's grown, everybody around us should be able to follow through as well. Looking after oneself is so, so important. And being in touch with our physical is so, so important. So big up to you, Kajal, for finding the time for this conversation and listening into what it is that you do and how busy you get. I feel for your next birthday, I think I owe you a cape because you are some type of superwoman. You're absolutely, absolutely busy. And not only that, you give yourself to your work. You deliver all the time. You are dedicated, and not just dedicated, you are dedicated with a smile. So that says a lot. But that being said, thank you all so, so very much for tuning in. We are grateful as always. Thank you so much. Enjoy your day. Enjoy the rest of your day, or enjoy your evening. Take care and much love from us here at SoOnline Radio.
Did you know that community radio stations are a great way to connect to your local community and hear what's going on around you? Well, why not tell us your favourites so you can keep coming back? We are always here for you, even if it's just to play you some music or give you some local news. We are your community radio station, SoOnline Radio.